Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, the snow's melting outside. It's finally kind of spring. I'm pretty sure it's spring in Animal Crossing right now, so that's a good thing.
Well, that's how you track the seasons, of course.
Yeah, of course.
I was out early this morning. It was like extremely foggy, like couldn't see the traffic lights, kind of foggy, and so you got like close to the intersection.
Foggy.
Yeah,
that's
spooky
a good
foggy.
Kind of fog. Nice. That's terrible for driving, but cool for atmosphere.
Oh yeah, no, very, very atmospheric. Definitely.
Very dark
Silent
academia.
Hill.
I'm pretty sure that's like the trend now.
Oh, is that the in thing now?
Well, that's like the fashion. I'm pretty sure it's called dark academia. There's like a whole bunch of new fashions out there now. There's not just like grunge or goth or I don't know, skater. It's like all this new stuff, which is pretty cool because obviously there's gonna be new stuff because the world keeps chugging on and time keeps rolling and we ain't teenagers anymore. So
my sense of fashion was frozen decades ago. My sense of fashion right now is this shirt fits me.
Nice. It's like sick. We did it.
I put clothes on. Fashion.
All right. Well, you'd be mistaken that if this podcast is about fashion. This podcast is actually where we talk about running tabletop RPGs. Me and Calvin are both DMs. We DM several campaigns and are in several campaigns, especially each other's. And we just want to, share some advice, some tips, and some of our experiences behind the screen.
Exactly. We want to make it look a little less mysterious to hop on the other side of a GM screen or DM screen or whatever it may be.
A little less foggy or dark.
Oh yeah, there you go. Let's clear the fog away.
Yeah.
So normally we start with a DM tip, and we'll roll into that right now. Ramon, you got a Win with Dice weekly tip for us this week?
The Win with Dice weekly tip. I always try to make these things, relevant. Also, I try to make these things up last minute, like I always do.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know why either. We really should just have a list, but that's how we roll, baby.
We should. You're the one who does the tip. You should.
It's mostly Calvin, guys. Well, all right. So, let's talk about a tip for introducing new PCs. There's been a lot of deaths in somebody's campaign recently. And somebody had to do a lot of, introduction in new PCs. But also, sometimes, you have a buddy who just wants to come and play a game and just wants to join the session. Introducing that one-shot PC or, somebody's new character, like, it could, like, grind a session to a halt. And honestly, I think it's like the cousin to my worst session, which is session number 1, where everybody's like, I don't know if I like you yet, but we have to work together. Kind of like, Avengers 1, where everyone starts fighting for some reason. But like, bro, don't worry, we're all bros together, right?
Yeah, they'll punch for a bit and then be mates.
Exactly, right? So, that stuff is like pulling teeth for me. So my thing, I always kind of want to have like either like a unifying theme of like the campaign, right? Like trying to tie your character to that campaign or to an NPC that's important, or tie the player's character to another player's character, right? Like maybe they're cousins or like they grew up in the same town. I think in a pirate campaign, 2 of the characters, they grew up in the same town and they already knew each other. So that was easy. And actually, I think what I did for that campaign, that was actually pretty legit. I just made one character the pseudo leader, who was Misty. Then I told Misty, I was like, all right, how are you going to link up with the other characters? And Misty's like, don't worry, I know a guy. And then he jumped to Payne's character, Ray. And Ray's like, don't worry, I know a chick. And then jumps to Abby's character. And that was like probably the smoothest, like, we're a team ever. Like, I just let my PCs do it.
Yeah, that also cool. Works. You can get the players to input with that. Definitely having some sort of central, like, having an adventurers guild in your game can be pretty functionally useful. If you just need an excuse to say, like, hey, you're all working together because you are all part of the same group or guild or mercenaries or whatever.
You guys are all co-workers. That's what it is. It's always like,
yes.
Right. Whether you're like a part of the royal court or something. So like, you guys could be a whole bunch of, like, one could be a scribe, but he's actually like a wizard. One could be like the guard, but he's like a fighter. You know what I mean? Like you can, but you all are part of the royal court, right? Or so you serve the king. So it's like the king tells you to go do something, you all have to work together, right? Because your boss tells you to go work on a project with a bunch of jabronis.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to go work with those jabronis, and make some friends along the way.
But it also does. It also does help give a springboard for the RP. Like, it does make that smoother because you already have that relation with the character. You already have that thing to yes and off of. Like, from a player's perspective, you already have something to work with, which I think is better than having to like figure out each other. You have sort of a sense, and even if it's like you have a large party and some people have connections and others don't, you still form those small groups within the party, and then start creating like RP moments from there.
Exactly, right. I mean, even in the Avengers, Tony's dad knew Captain America, right? So Captain America's familiar with Stark, right? Yeah. And like Hawkeye was there with Thor, I guess, so he knew about Thor
very briefly. They didn't really talk about it much, but he did have that connection with Black Widow. So everyone was like they'll have those side conversational moments.
Yeah, which is cool, right? Like that's what you want, and I want that to happen like within 10 to 20 minutes. Or
yes.
If it takes like half the session for everyone to be on the same page of doing a thing, it's rough, man. Like
you don't have much time to do the thing. Yeah,
that's the one with that tip of the week. Yeah, it's I think it's pretty useful. I take it to heart every time I start a new campaign. I'm like, how am I going to get these jabronis to work together? So
just find some sort of common ground for the PCs.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of recaps that we could do this week. Our friend Tim has been running the Lost Mine of Phandelver 5e adventure as a Pathfinder 2e adventure. And I just ran a session last night in my Crown of Dragons campaign. Which took some interesting turns, because I did have to introduce several new people. But yeah, we'll just cover both of them. We can start with the Lost Mine game, which last we talked about ended up on a very significant cliffhanger. In that one of the... So Kavo, one of the new characters who was introduced, was surrounded. I think he was still conscious by the end of that session. I might be incorrect. But he was definitely surrounded by bugbears.
Yep, he was, and immediately at the start of the next session he went down because obviously, right? It is a little unfortunate, but Kavo, our strongest, one of our strongest members, just went down by some bugbears.
Silrona, our wizard, had just been knocked unconscious by falling into a pit trap and was being approached by this terrifying creature.
I got Wile E. Coyote'd off of a bridge, and I was being approached by I forget that one-eyed monster.
The Nothic.
Nothic, yes. That thing is legit terrifying.
It is probably the most scary looking thing I've seen as a player. Like, there's stuff that's scary in terms of how powerful it is. This thing, while probably not the strongest thing I've ever fought, is definitely the most immediate real world revulsion.
Yeah, it's like automatically the thing can invade your mind and make you want to do terrible things, right? And it's horrible looking, and it's kind of crazy, and it's just all sorts of nope, please. I don't want it.
Do not want. No, thank you.
Do not want this. Yes, please.
And the rest of our adventuring party was sort of arguing with each other because Thalum, also a new player, did not want to kill the Redbrands that they were fighting, but my character Teeks and the other our ranger, who's good at punching, Bren, was they reacted quite quickly in killing those Redbrands.
Yeah,
so things look dire.
Well, I mean, it was mostly just okay, how do we resolve the party arguing, and then get the other half of the party, the not stealth team or team Redbrands, or I don't know, disguise team. Yeah, the disguise team.
Yeah, there was stealth team that turned into SWAT team, and then there was disguise team.
Right, so to help SWAT team, because SWAT team was like down and out, right? So then, that took a little bit, and then there was like trying to find secret doors to just cut across, so you have to walk all the way back, and like, there's a lot of like, how do I justify my character trying to help out the other party, right?
Basically, yeah, because
right.
I vaguely, I could recognize from the map, and the fact that you had come across some secret doors before, like I could tell that my character was like one secret door away from being able to help. But, like, I had to justify that. I had to, like, actually, do that investigation or that notice check. We did try to open those. Like, there were some hostages that were taken by the Redbrands. And we did try to open those doors, but apparently no one was strong enough. Because we needed Cavo there, but he was way on the other side of the map.
Yeah. That was a crazy encounter all around. I think that, like, if we redid it and we all busted in one side, it might have gone a little bit better overall, because we were all be able to support each other, right? But like the fact that we were split up, it was like it made things like a little bit like risky.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
definitely the people who were in the toughest situation in that whole encounter were still Rona and Cavo, especially after they split up. Like, that was a smaller team, and then you split into individuals, like, one and
well,
one.
you know what? I totally didn't expect to get Wile E. Coyote. Like, man, if
fair.
like, I was sitting pretty. I had a couple more spell slots. Like, I was just chilling. Like, we're gonna wreck anybody else that showed up. I thought the encounter was over. But Tim's like, nah, man, there's so much more stuff here. There's a trap. And I got screwed. Which, it's fine. I was like, if anything, I wasn't upset. I was just really surprised. Because you're right. We did not go over that bridge. We went over the other bridge. There was 2 bridges. And I was like, I can't believe they trapped the bridge. That was legitimately what I was thinking.
Of course,
but of course they would do that.
So yeah, while that happened, and then the bugbears all ganged up on Cavo, he did try to like tumble through, but he wasn't able to. So the bugbears all ganged up on him, knocked him down. So my character was like searching for a way to get those hostages out, because the way we came now had a pit trap in it. And like Disguise team, who disguised themselves in the Redbrand cloaks to sneak into the Redbrand base, had a bit of a rough go of it because of a certain pit trap and then being attacked by some skeletons. So I wasn't in great shape, I know that. I think the only person like in the entire party who was in like totally great shape was Fallum, because his whole thing is just like shield warrior.
Yeah, I am a wall.
Yeah, Fallum just like, when Fallum holds down an area, like, nothing's getting through. So, yeah, like, my character eventually did find, like, a secret door that led out into, the larger part of the cave, where she was eventually able to see, with Fallum's help, she was able to see what was going on. Yeah. I don't know if she could exactly see Silrona from where she was, but I think she knew enough to, like, realize, Glassstaff, this guy we tried to capture, he's still up and about.
Yeah, I think after everything, you guys fought Glassstaff and the bugbears came around the corner, and then you guys actually, I think Bren came eventually too.
Yeah, Bren was busy looting, which is fair. Yeah. Entirely fair. But yeah, Teeks and Fallum were trying to sneak up. Teeks totally fumbled that stealth, and then ended up having to fight Glassstaff. And at this point, like, because I'm just a lowly druid, I don't have a whole ton of spells per day like a powerful wizard.
Unlimited power.
So I just had to make do with what I had. I was down to cantrips like a noob, so I'm blasting Glassstaff with lightning, which eventually worked. And then we got Silrona back on his feet with a handy-dandy stabilize.
Yeah. So we were finally, I think after that we cleared out everything, and then we decided to all start searching around the place. And then somehow there's still Redbrands here.
Yeah, there was a whole room full of a few more Redbrands, and we did get separated again because Phalum ended up having to face off against like a whole room of Redbrands.
Right. And it was just like I legitimately was like, really? There's Redbrand still here?
They were sleeping.
Yeah, but like it was kind of nuts. To be honest with you, I was just like, how many of these dudes were there? There must have been like 40 dudes because we killed a bunch in the town, and then we killed a whole bunch here, and 2 of them ran away, and then there's still more. Like it was crazy.
Yeah,
man.
and a few more like at the that encounter that you weren't there for, where we thought there was going to be treasure, but it was just an ambush.
Yeah, just an ambush. Nice.
I did forget to mention, there was a moment where Teeks and Phalum were like back to back, because after the bugbears had finished with Kavo, they moved on into the larger chamber. And when they had moved into the larger chamber, like they were trying to attack Teeks and Phalum, and I was trying to position myself well, but then they like came from multiple different directions, and it was just like, okay, I guess I can't hide behind Phalum now. I'm just gonna have to hit them with lightning and hope it works.
Yeah, and it did. I'm pretty sure like it was only like 2 rounds or something like that fight was to blast those dudes. I think Teeks did pretty well with her lightning blasts.
Yeah, but I was
electric
at
arc
like
spell.
1 or 2 HP by the end of it.
Hey man, I was right next to a weird creepy thing that was trying to fillet me.
yeah, that's true. Because like I had this one heal potion, and I was so tempted multiple times to use it on myself, but I was like, no, I gotta worry about Silroda and Kavo. Like I gotta save it for them.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm glad that my character made it out alive. To be fair, I was running pretty hot.
You were. You ran right into that wizard duel.
Yeah,
which you're really lucky that worked out in your favor.
Yeah. You know, we got, so, you know, after we cleared off all that, and, you know, we got a bunch of rewards. So, you know, all around the place, there was like a bunch of gold. There were some more gemstones I think I picked up that were like, you know, basically just gold in another form. But I like having like gemstones and like you know, art objects and stuff like that in the game, as well as just gold coins, because I think it's like interesting, because, you know, you can't barter with gold, right? It's just the money, right? But let's say like you can definitely play up the fact that you have these bag of gems, right? Like definitely like, ooh, what's in it, right? I think it's just cooler. Also, like if a Zorn shows up, we could just definitely trade that instead of money, because Zorn eat gems. So it's like, do you want a little snack? It's like, have a little gem on you, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So and then I got glass staff, which is hilarious because I said that to Tim, and Tim was like, "What?" All I heard is glass staff. But
yeah, that was his name. That's why he had that name.
Yeah, because he had a glass staff, right?
Yeah, and then we discovered that he was actually Jarno Albrecht, this one guy who we thought was a hostage that we also came to rescue, but apparently had taken over this gang. So that was, again, what I really like is how Tim did his quest list. I totally borrow, quote unquote. I totally stole it for my campaign.
Nice.
But it just, again, it was really helpful in like looking back and seeing everything that we had to do, because I was gonna make notes on it at first. That's what I started doing last session, was I was looking at like, okay, what's everything we have to do here? We have to rescue that family, we have to capture Glassstaff, we have to find Iarno, and then I look at Roll20 and I see that we have this list, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's everything that we have to do, and it's more organized than my list.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and like speaking on the previous I was gonna say podcast, the previous podcast, we talked about rewarding PCs, and it definitely was a rewarding experience. It felt like we did a lot. We all almost died a bunch of times. Some of us were closer to death than others. You know, and we did a lot of stuff. We like, you know, we didn't actually fight the what's that thing called? The Nilith?
The Nothic.
Nothic. That's called. Names, fuck.
Yeah, it just it started like nomming into Glassstaff.
Yeah, which we're like, okay, that's fine. That guy's an asshole anyway. So, you know, we didn't actually fight it. We talked that one down. We did crazy amount of combat. That was miraculous. We actually ended up saving a wife and kids that were missing.
Yeah.
And defeat the Redbrands, and that was pretty cool. Like, and then we got rewarded, and we got a bunch of gold. I don't know what else we got. All I was concerned about was like the glass staff and like what it could do, and then I guess whatever is around. Oh yeah, and we got a rat, which I'm pretty sure was glass staff's familiar. Like, it was just kind of like, it's like Tim described a rat just kind of hanging out, and I was like, that's probably the wizard's familiar. I was like, all right, buddy, you're coming with me. I need to go get him a little cowboy hat and badge now, so he can be my familiar.
It's gonna be adorable.
Yeah, I think I leveled up, so I think I actually get a feat. So I'm just gonna take the familiar feat and just have a little rat deputy. I'm just gonna call him deputy.
Deputy rat. Yeah, I gotta see what feats might give me more spells, because that's the only thing I care about. Man,
you
it should have been a wizard.
You could just turn your money into scrolls of whatever spell you want to cast, right? And
but then I only get it once. Like, I know that'll stress me out, because like anytime I play a video game and I have resource that I could use, and it's like, I can't use this now, I might need it later.
Oh yeah, right.
If I start getting scrolls, I'm never gonna use them.
Skyrim endgame fighting Alduin or whatever his name is, get that +5 fire resistance potion just chilling there, like, yes, what if I am prepared. What if I need this?
Yeah, no, I won't use a scroll unless I have at least 2 of them. So, like, that
doesn't make any sense.
It's gonna be double my gold for me to use one scroll.
What are you gonna spend your money on? Just health potions? Come on, live on the edge. You gotta have some. I don't know. Like, I always love turning it into extra scrolls. It's like every time I play a spellcaster, that's how I usually end up doing. It's always like, okay, let me get the scrolls, let me get the staff, so I have just more options, right? I just want to be able to just be like, okay, I think this is where I pull out my lightning bolt now and just shoot it off or whatever, right? Like, yeah.
I'm gonna need some. Yeah, I'm gonna need some backup spell options.
Definitely, it's definitely a good idea, especially for stuff that's like, maybe it's like Gust of Wind, where like it's really useful, but you never really need to have it on you. Like, you just never, it doesn't do damage, right? But it's very useful in certain situations. So it's like, Gust of Wind spell.
that was a spell that was on my list previously, but then it was like, no, I should probably use both of those slots for the heal spell.
Exactly. Well, you could just,
because no one's playing a cleric.
Well, yeah, I mean, not playing a cleric is fine. I feel like healing is kind of overrated in tabletop RPGs, because it's like, I don't know, I'm always about like the ever growing present of I could just die at any moment, but there's a cleric there, then it's like, well, you're more than likely not gonna die as long as the healer is still up, right? Like, the cleric's still up, right? So
yeah, but I mean, it is I know I've heard this comparison from you, in that, like, how is it described? You described like the way combat works in that NPCs or monsters are like more of a sprint and players are more of a marathon.
Yeah.
I feel like those heal spells are like a few extra like steps in that marathon. Like, you get a little bit more energy, but it doesn't mean you can keep going forever, because those are also a limited resource.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like, if you think of it in terms of like, if I'm gonna cast a healing spell, that means I'm not gonna shoot off a fireball or something like that, right?
Right.
It's always like the fight could be done faster if I chose to just go out all on the offensive, right?
Right.
It's always like, do I keep a buffing spell on? Now, do I waste a turn? Not waste a turn, but like, do I have a turn where I don't lower the amount of enemies or make enemies die sooner? Because there's no mechanic in Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder to really kind of I would say like visualize getting hurt. Like, you're same, like your HP at max and your HP at 1, you're the same character, right? Nothing has changed other than like how ballsy you the player is. right. Right. So it's like, health and HP and stuff like that, that's always just like, it just makes the chances of you getting out of that fight alive like higher, but it's not really gonna help you end the fight sooner or do anything cool. I think.
Yeah, I think the Sentinels of the Multiverse RPG has some mechanic like that, where if you get lower in health, you get different abilities. I don't remember for sure, because it might. I don't think it's like health. I think it's like tension or danger or something like that. The more danger your character is in, the more things they can do.
Yeah, well, that's the same idea of like the lower your HP is, the more tension there is in the room, right?
Yeah, but like a mechanical addition to it as well.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I like that. I know in Lancer, when you start taking damage, like you start losing your mech structures, like your mech's actually falling apart, which is, I think, is pretty cool, because then you could get like, you take this massive blow and like bits and pieces get like shot off, or like your mechanical arm falls off, and you're just like, crap, your like cockpit's exposed and you're just still fighting through it. I think that's pretty badass.
I hate when like I have to lose like a weapon or something. Like I don't mind losing one of my systems, because then it's just like that's usually more likely to be something I'm not using immediately at the moment. But when I lose a weapon, I lose one of my weapon options, then it's like, oh, I gotta change up my tactics, and
I can't just spam the one button now.
Yeah, like even if it's the thing I'm not using, then it's just like I don't have that melee or that ranged option anymore, or that super heavy option, as the case may be, like whatever it is.
Right, and that's the thing too with Lancer, I like, is that even though like the one thing that you're good at is gone, you can still do something, right? Yeah. You still can just like invade a character to death and overheat them. You can still like grapple them and help out your friends. You could just like, I don't know, throwing on lock-ons for people if all of your weapons are destroyed and you're like, well, I don't know what to do, or like, I'm going to use improvised attack, right? Like it's pretty cool. I like that game. I like that game because it's like, there's like not really any wrong options, really. You pick and choose whatever you want, and you can mix and match however you want, and there definitely are some synergistic builds and cool things you could do. But even if you just like literally were like, I'm going to pick a random license every single time, you'll still have a functioning mech that'll like work perfectly fine. And that's why that game is cool.
Yeah, I feel like if I was a bit more familiar with the game, I would literally get like a random one each time, because like that seems more in line with what my character is for our be sure to check out our Lancer actual play. But that seems more in line with what my character is, like having just random parts and components on the bot.
Yeah, well,
maybe one day I'll lean into that.
Well, I have a random table if you want to roll on it, Calvin. It's pretty cool.
No, I gave myself a central conceit. I gave myself I want to build a grappler build, just so I would have like a theme to work with if I didn't know what to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, after that.
But
here's the cool thing about Lancer is that, like, that's like, you can do that within 2 license levels, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I'm in a position where I have most of the things that are related to that. So, like, I don't know what to do now. Maybe I will start using random stuff as I start leveling up, once I've covered like all the grapple-based tech or skills and abilities. Yeah,
like, and you could just just do whatever, man. Like there's just no wrong options in the game, and it's like so chill. It's like it's so fun, and it's just hilarious that you think that like you figured out all the answers, but nah, there's like enemy combinations that'll just like throw you a loop, and then you're like, I thought I figured this out.
Not yet. Yet. But yeah, we managed to get out of the cave. We did get the hostages briefly, because the Nothic, whenever you go near it, it like sends these telepathic messages into your head to get you to like cut your flesh off so it can eat it, which is horrible. Yeah. Ooh. So they did get pretty lucky with their will save there. It was a very close call. But they did manage to get out of there without like as we were guiding them, it was Brett and Teeks who were doing it, and we just told them like, because like we don't have time to clear out all the bodies and stuff, and then there was the flayed body of the husband in the family just lying there, so it's like, no, we gotta get them out of here. Just keep looking at the ground, don't look at anything else.
Oh my god, and like Tim would not let up, like, oh my god. Just like, we gotta get this family out of this nightmare situation. And he's just like, yes. I'm like, oh my god, Tim, don't. Just stop, please.
Because it's still an active nightmare situation.
Yeah.
That was pretty tense. I would have been like distraught if we lost that family.
Oh man, like honestly, I think if I was DMing, I would have like had this whole thing like over like hours ago. But it was just such a emotional ride. This whole like defeating the Redbrands. Like I don't even know what else is in this campaign. Like where are we gonna go else?
There's so much else. What if we get the quest list? We gotta go fight those orcs.
Yeah, like, I feel like I just wanted some good old fashioned Dungeons and Dragons. Go fight some orcs now, and instead of this saving women and children away from like, stay away from like you can't see your dead mutilated dad's corpse or something. Like, oh my god, Tim. Like, ugh. Thanks, D&D for making that into.
Yeah, let's just go fight the orcs. That'll be nice and easy.
Oof, rough stuff. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I know. Legitimately, I had to jump out early, so I legitimately was just like, yeah. So we're just gonna go take another bath, and he's just like, I had to wash away this entire day. Like,
yeah, it's been a stressful day.
It's a stressful day.
But yeah, so after you had left, we pretty much mostly did some shopping. Yeah. Thalum, he had he did some lengthy negotiations trying to sell some items, but he unfortunately pushed his luck too far with one shopkeeper and then got kicked out.
Oh.
But other than that, it was mostly just like analyzing the things we found, learning some history about them, selling some stuff off, buying some things. I know I got some more health potions. Maybe I'll buy some scrolls. I don't know.
Tell it, do it. Buy some scrolls. You won't regret it. Like I think that, okay, so the difference between like a spellcasting character and like a martial character is that you can invest into a martial character's equipment and it'll always work out for you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but there's not a lot of spellcaster equivalent items that you can buy to directly augment your character. The only thing you can really augment is the amount of resources you have to spend per day, right? Like, legitimately. So buying scrolls and wands even, and just stuff that'll just give you more options or lots more of the same options, just like, it's, you have to like buy extra ammo packs, man. Like, it's, you gotta think of them that way. It's like, you never have to use them, but if you do, you're happy you spent the money. Like,
I mean, I know I will use them. It's just I'm trying to imagine the situation where like I'll want to use this gust of wind scroll, but it'll be my last one, and I'll be like, what if there's a situation where I have like, how long is gust of wind? I don't know, like 4 or 5 people literally standing in a line in front of me. What if that happens and they're all in front of a cliff?
they're all definitely gonna fail their saves and all get pushed off the cliff.
What if?
Calvin, I mean, even if you didn't buy that scroll, like, you just, it doesn't matter. It just won't. You gotta use it, man. You gotta use it.
See, this is why I do martial classes. I don't gotta think about what if they're standing over here. No, they just have to be standing within 5 feet and they die.
I gotta press the A button every time. Press that one button.
Yeah, I was gonna spam my combo.
Yeah. I don't think I ever really play martial classes. Well, that's not true. I play thieves. The last martial class I played was a rogue back in Pathfinder, and that was cool, but also like weird because like I had this weird combination where in like I think it was a Pathfinder feat where if you got attacked with a spell, right, but you made the save, you could just immediately hide in place. It's like misdirection essentially. And your hide was augmented because it's always like if you try to hide in plain sight by those rules, you had to -10 the roll, but then you every time when you successfully made the reflex save, the amount of dice rolled would be added back to the roll. So instead of it being like you get hit by a fireball with 3d6, you pass the reflex save. Now, instead of it being -10 to whatever stealth check you make, it's only going to be -4 because you evaded 6 dice worth of damage, which was like pretty cool. So what I would do, I was actually the party's tank, which was hilarious, because everybody else were like range. Like, we had a ranger who was the best ranger ever. We had an alchemist who did some off tanky, but mostly just kind of threw giant spears because he could throw anything, so he just gave him some ballista bolts and bombs and stuff. And we had a bard. He was hilarious. Shout out to Bengal Spice, he's the best. And low-key the inspiration for Bellatrix party. I don't know if I told the story on thing where it's like the Bengal Spice is a bard, but he's like a percussion bard or oratory bard, but whatever. He essentially is a pro wrestler, right? He's a pro wrestler half orc, but like, you know, he's like a fake wrestling. He has his heels are Party and Party, which are two halflings. So he always fights these two halflings, right? And they're wrestlers, right? So it's all fake. So it's hilarious. And that's where I remember the whole point of that character. Well, the whole point is like we got a bar and then we gave it to Party and Party to run. So now it was like we have to save the world so we can run the bar. like we like established our end goal. And I guess kind of drawing back into last podcast as well, where it's like you have to humanize like your party's goals. Like it's all good to like you know, save the world, but it's also like you have to save your friends as well, right?
Like you want to save like everybody, but it's more impactful if you're trying to save like that one person or that one location or something like that. Right. So anyway, like, okay, so the game loop was sneak attack somebody out of nowhere, just blindly rush at them, right? Like out of high stealth, right? And then next round, I think I had a bunch of abilities to say like, if I got off my sneak attack, the next attack that opponent does to me is at a bunch of negatives. So then hopefully they would miss, right? Then grab the wand of fireball, blow up myself and the other person, obviously dodge it because I'm like a rogue, so I'm really good at it, right? So make the save, go back into hiding. They got exploded by a fireball, and they're like, "Where the hell did he go?" And then back to stabbing. Like, wow, like, right? And I was like, "Oh man, he's so impressive! I can't believe I did it! Like, it was like the coolest thing I was ever to pull off." Yeah, it was crazy. And as well as being with the alchemist was so much synergy because the alchemist, I would just be like, "Yeah, just throw the bomb at me." With the people, right? It doesn't matter if I'm in the splash zone. I'll make the reflex save and be able to hide. And then it was like, all of a sudden, our entire team was this alpha hit squad. Like nothing ever made past like 2 rounds. Like it was awesome, and we had the best time. Yeah, that party synergy.
Yeah, it was crazy. The party synergy was off the charts, dog. It's fun.
We know each other's tactics, but yeah. So, I mean, again, that session started off pretty tense. Like, I don't know about you, but I was definitely, when it wasn't actively my turn, I was statting up a backup character.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. Most of my turn was like, I spent about 2 hours just kind of like not doing anything,
being unconscious,
which is, I think, is real. It's really rough. And like, I'm trying to think of if there's any points where I let another player be unconscious for a long time. Cause like I think I would be very, like me personally as a DM, I'd be very worried about it. I'm like, oh god, this player's not having fun, right? But like it was cool. I was able to just kind of like goof around and not be so serious about it. It was like Tim would always be like, "So what are you dreaming about while you're unconscious?"
Actually, that was really interesting because I wouldn't know what to do with someone who's just unconscious. I think just asking what you're dreaming about, just giving the player something to actively like talk about, even as a gag. I think is interesting.
Gotta give him a little bit of screen time, right? Because I think like it'd be kind of tough if a player wasn't able to it's just sitting there being like a passive audience member, right? Like you just you showed up to play, we like to have a little bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
Right? But it was cool. I definitely like to. I think I might do that too next time when someone gets knocked out and when on their turn and be like, "So what are you dreaming about?" give a little levity to the situation, maybe. Or maybe make it even more somber. It's like, oh, I see my dead wife and my dead kids, and I'm gonna go to the afterlife now. And it's like, oh man, that's pretty hard. Like,
what a downer.
What a downer. And someone's like, I'm dreaming about clowns. And you're just like, oh, okay.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another great session. Again, Tim does that thing where he's very flexible with the literal interpretations of the rules to allow the fiction to come out. Like one person, one of the bugbears was trying to throw a weapon, totally fumbled it, and fell in the pit. One of the Redbrands, they stumbled over a body and they just had the prone condition. I don't know. I really like stuff like that. I know we say this a bunch of times whenever we talk about Tim's campaigns, whenever he's running, but I just think it's cool that he does that. That's definitely something I feel like I could shoot to be more flexible in doing. I might be too rigid with my rules interpretations, but
you gotta be the rule of cool, Calvin. You're not cool enough.
No, I can't. There's too much rule. I need more rule.
Less cool, more rule.
Less cool, more rule. That's my catchphrase.
Sounds like t-shirt material to me. If we ever get merchandise, we should definitely do that.
Yeah, that'll be our first shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, another great session. Don't have much else to say about it, other than, again, I stole his quest list for my campaign.
Cool. Yeah, well, we had another. I don't know if you want to unpack something else, or you want to go and talk about your other campaign that you ran this weekend.
Yeah, we got plenty more episode time, so I can squeeze this in. So I did run a session last night. So this one is another one that I was like kind of stressed out coming up to, because what I had set up for my Crown of Dragons campaign is it's basically collecting the orbs of dragonkind. You put them all into the Dracoronum, which is the dragon crown, sort of a mashup of the Latin words for dragon and crown, and then you win. That's the
then you win. That's it. You just like put all the things, you put it on, and you're like, I did it, and it's just like confetti. Like
well, there's more to it, but I don't want to say too much. But that's basically it. Like, you're collecting the orbs, you're collecting the crown. What I had planned for this session was that it was going to be information gathering, where they would get certain details about like areas that would be popular with dragons, that would be most likely for where the orbs are contained, as well as some details on where the crown would be. And then they can choose which task they intend to go for first. So that alone would be a pretty big deal, because that's setting up like the next series of sessions. So I mean, like, yeah, that first off would be something big to deal with, but also because of a character death and someone's like changed character, but they like, he was playing a rogue, he wasn't really into it, so he wanted to play something else. A character death last session, and that one player who a few sessions ago wanted to switch to a fighter from their wizard. So this was the session where everyone was like, all the character switches were happening. So along with like setting up the next story arc, or the next chapter of the story arc, I also had to introduce 3 people and get rid of one.
How many pieces are you running in that campaign?
4.
So wait, so you're telling me that like, all of a sudden the entire party most of the party were just like, we're new, like.
Basically, it was actually really interesting, because there was one person left who was part of the original party, like even because they were a druid and they had like animal companions, and even their first companion died in that first session, so they are like the last holdout of that 2018 campaign.
Yeah. Right, and I don't know, it just kind of crossed my mind, Calvin. Why didn't you just like piece out of that storyline, let the characters be on the boat and continue on to wherever they were going, and then just jump to a new party with 3 new members, and maybe talk to the 4th one being like, hey man, let's just make a new party. And then, you know what you could have done? I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, thinking in my cinematic ass brain.
Sure.
You could have jumped to them, just started them, being like, okay, you guys are another part of the Adventures Guild, and you guys are like right in front of a dungeon or something, where it's like, you know, there's a dragon orb here. It's like, yeah,
Why?
and then it's like, you get those guys to go down, they get a dragon orb, and then you could either have that person, you know, NPC kind of link up with them eventually, turn that character into an NPC, so like they're still in the world, and eventually like maybe they link back up into the story. I'm just saying, man, introducing 3 new characters.
Well, the thing is, like, it wasn't my intention to have to switch 3 people in one session. Like what it was just that one like the wizard player was the first one who wanted to switch up, if I remember correctly. And he was just going to switch to a different like character. He was going to switch to a fighter, but they were going to this academy to do the research. So we were just thinking like, okay, the wizard will just stay there at the academy and he'll just work there for a bit, assuming he survives the journey, which he luckily did. But then just like stuff happened. Like the one player, like their character died. The barbarian, his character died. He switched to a rogue for a bit. and he just like he didn't happen to be into the character, so he wanted to switch as well, and that just the timing of that just happened to coincide with the character who unluckily died last session. Like if this was more of like, if I had a better idea of like all these things were gonna happen very close to each other, maybe I would have set something up differently. But everything just happened in such a way that it was like we were going to continue on the same storyline, and things were going to shift as we did, but they just ended up all having to shift at once, just as a matter of like random timing, basically.
Yeah, man, I would have just pulled out of that trajectory like immediately and just been like, okay, we're gonna go do something else, but still be in the storyline, but we'll talk it from a different perspective. And I think you probably could have gotten your players to be on board with that, because they're all a bunch of new characters anyway, right? Yeah. Most of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Like that was just like the way it ended up working out. That it was just like a plan that we were gonna follow this thread, but then suddenly like things had to change, and they ended up having to change all at once.
All right. Well. Let me tell me how this miraculous introducing almost a whole new party. You know what you should have done? You should have had the 3 people already be a party, and have the new person, like the druid who's still there, introduce themselves to those people.
Well, they kind of were, because they were all part of the Adventurers Guild. Like I was saying up top, like I worked off of that baseline just to make introductions easier.
Got it. This is so funny. All right, let's get into this recap.
Okay,
I want to know what happened. And
immediately we started off on the Mermaid's Dagger, this ship captained by Helen Highwater. Just right after that fight with the River Drakes, the players are sort of recovering from seeing their companion fall before their eyes. There was some drama amongst them. One of the characters, the newer one, said, and I wrote this down because I thought it was interesting. He said, "Death surrounds all of you," and then just like stormed off. And I was like, "Wow, cool."
Oof, that's some heavy stuff right there, man.
So yeah, it was a pretty heavy moment. I did give them I gave them a couple of magic items from Helen, who offered to cover the cost of the trip, and as well they had some items that quote unquote fell off the back of a boat. Not sure how these plucky pirates would have come across those items. No one knows how, but they just got a couple of magic items. You know how it goes. At that night I had a scene where, because the character who died, they're playing this sorcerer with I had to custom make a Stormborn bloodline. Because one existed in 1st edition Pathfinder, but not in 2nd edition. So we had this story that was essentially like this person was from the Storm Plane, but the throne had been taken over, and they were the last survivor, and they had barely escaped. Sort of a rip-off of Game of Thrones. That was the point of reference that I used for Daenerys. But also, anyone who's watched the first campaign of Critical Role, very much a rip-off of Percy, my favorite character from that game. But basically, so her dying was kind of a big deal, because she was the last of the Stormborn royalty and all that. So I had this moment, and I had a similar thing planned for the other barbarian who died. It's just that the players weren't able to recover his body, so I didn't get to use that. But what happened with this character is that the storm, there was this massive storm that came to the ship, and it was rocking the ship back and forth. But the druidic characters, the one of the party, and Jasper, that storm speaker druid, who was part of the ship crew, they were able to tell that it was as if the seas and the air and the lightning in the sky were all in mourning. So what they ended up doing was just burying this character Maywin at sea, and then just I had described the moment as as the body was sinking into the water, there was one final crash of lightning just over where they had dropped her, and then the water started to come back down again, just sort of going into this calmer rainstorm.
Ah, nice. That's a good kind of final farewell to a character. That's a good one.
Yeah, it was something that I thought it might come up, so I just kind of sooner than I thought it would have been.
Calvin's like thinking about cool funeral scenes for all his players. It's like, just in case.
Just in case. Yeah, like I had one for the barbarian who had died as well. Like if the players tried to revive him, like I had a thing planned for that, but it was just a situation where they couldn't get to the body safely. Yeah. So I mean, like that element is still out there, depending on how that goes if they come across it again. But other than that, I kind of like, because we had so much to cover, so instead of my usual like travel thing where it's like here's an event that happens that day, I kind of like flim-flammed all the travel that went on. So a few days later, the boat arrived on the coast of this island where they were going, where the academy was. There was a dwarf who was part of the Adventurers Guild waiting for them there, and that dwarf had a list of all 4 names of the original party members who had like originally gotten this quest. Right. And really was only able to meet 2 of them and one other guy.
Yeah, okay. And then he was like, well, that's shit.
Basically, yeah. I did, though, like, give them some more hints on, like, a plot line of, like, all the draconic creatures in Tovaros were acting weirdly. Just because, like, and they discovered as they were doing research that it might have something to do with the Crown of Dragons itself. Like, someone messing with that could cause this sort of thing. That's why there were, like, river drakes in the middle of the open waters.
Oh, okay.
But this is where we got into a bit of PvP. Like, not to the point of death, but, like, basically what happened is they went to an inn to get some rest. There were some gambling games going on, and the one character, this new rogue by the name of Mifrlock, who was a cousin to the barbarian that had died, he wasn't doing so hot. So he just, like, went and started gambling. And again, I used that same gambling game that I borrowed from Matt Mercer, you know, roll different dice, try to get the higher number than your opponent. You can try to psych them out or roll it, or do, like, a sleight of hand to sneak a card, that kind of thing.
Right.
He got some really good rolls. The opponent, unfortunately, was just slightly better. And the thing is, like, he came in, like, with a really high buy-in. That normally wouldn't have worked, but I was just like, okay, there's like one person who will match you at that buy-in, and then he just kept raising it to like this sort of ridiculous amount of like 30 gold buy-in,
right?
And I was wondering if this guy should pull out, but I had like a really good hand for him, so it's just like, I'm gonna have to let this play out. However the dice end up rolling, that's how this is gonna go, and so this rogue lost the game.
Oh man, Calvin, you're kicking him while he's down. His cousin's dead, his other friend just died. He doesn't even know why he's here, and he's trying to get some money, and he just lost all of it.
I mean, I was tempted to like cheat for him, but I was like, probably more dramatic if he loses. And also, that's what rolled.
Just bust out the evil laugh.
Like, if it were up to me personally, that guy would have rolled lower, but he didn't. So he accused this NPC of cheating, and nearly started a fight, but was, like, convinced to back off, and then the NPC got a charm spell cast on them, so he walked away with his winnings. And that probably would have been it, but then I was thinking, like, this was a pretty big deal, especially for that NPC, so he was going to come back later and, like, try to regain his honor for being accused of cheating. So he was just, what I was thinking was, he was just going to go in there, he was going to start a fight with the rogue, and then just, like, be sent off or whatever. What ended up happening is the fight got a lot more dramatic. The other players ended up having to try and stop the rogue from killing this guy, essentially. Yeah. The guy ended up dazed in combat, and there was I realized I don't understand the rules for non-lethal damage, apparently, so that's my B. So the guy was, like, just pretty much dazed at very low health. Right. And then guards showed up, and by this point, just because of some other stuff that was happening, like, there was a fracture in the party. But it wasn't too significantly bad, like, because everyone knew, like, this character would be moving on. And also, he was kind of a joke character in the first place. The token that the player used was, like, I don't remember the name of the character, but I think it's from Zelda or something. It's like this twerking gnome.
Oh, yeah, the weird one with the, I think he had red underwear or something he wears on the outside. He's pretty well weird. It's a weird character.
Yeah, so like they knew it was a joke character, so it's like there wasn't too much attachment to him, I guess. So we ended up playing out this moment where like the other PCs were just trying to stop it from killing this guy, who I guess partially deserved it, but whatever. Guards showed up. There was like the guards were going to take this guy in, and that might have been the end of it, but the rogue, being a rogue, was able to sneak away, rolled a phenomenal stealth check that I couldn't have beat with my perception, and then he stole a boat. I thought he was gonna like hide on like a small ship or something, but he took like a small boat and started just like rowing it out himself into the sea. And then I just had him roll like one final survival check just to like give myself a good idea of where he might end up. But now I sort of have that element out there, this very chaotic element that also knows all about the Crown of Dragons, and that there's someone trying to recover it.
Whoa, that sounds like he might go find a bad guy to go work for. Oh, that's awesome, man. Fuck, that's cool. All
Entirely possible. Yeah, like because I know PvP does tend to come with its own sort of like its own reputation of like its own negative reputation. And I feel like in any other situation I probably would have intervened, but I think everyone knew this guy, like, 1, this guy is leaving, 2, he was kind of a joke character, 3, he's like at an extreme deep end moment. Like, I don't know, everyone was still entertained at least, so that's why like I didn't really feel a need to like stop anything. I just sort of let things play out and describe them as best I could.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing with PvP is like I don't allow it unless it's like, I don't know, you guys are wrestling or something, like right, like non-violent stuff, or it's like a what's it called, a fighting competition or something like that, where like you guys are using non-lethal weapons with quotation marks, but it all functions like you just function like your regular weapons, but it's like all non-lethal, right? Kind of attitude. But like I never want PCs to threaten other PCs with violence, because it's like, I mean, like, yeah, you're playing a character who is arguably pretty violent because you're going around stabbing goblins and stuff, right? But I mean, you know, threatening to hurt like a fictional character who is, you know, yes, played by me, but like not really, because, you know, it's like the GM plays all of the other characters, right? But then you threatening your fictional character threatening somebody else's fictional character that they, you know, are basically like super involved into, right? It's like a totally different thing, and I'm just like, nah, man, that's like the red card on the table. Like, nope, right? Like, you can't do that. I'm like, straight up, like, you can't. Like, I don't care if you like, it's just not happening on my table. And I think in the past, fair. Yeah, you know, I think in the past I like kind of allowed it, or like I entertained the idea like one character is actually an assassin and is trying to kill the other character, right? Another player character. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, like, sure, that sounds kind of fun. But that campaign kind of stopped, and then I was like, you know, like, I think that was a mistake. Like, I should have just said, go figure out something else, because like I don't like that, right? Like, there's one thing from like, you know, stealing an item from a character, another thing for threatening another character's life, right? Because it's like, you know, it's just kind of like a dickhead move, and you guys are all here to play together and be friends together. I don't want any of that on my table.
Right.
Like,
yeah, no, like, if it was a character that people were more invested in, I probably wouldn't have allowed it. But since it was like, it wasn't one that people were taking seriously. Like, if it was any of the other characters, like that player's original character or his new character that seemed to be a bit more involved, sure. But other than that, like, I think everyone's fine with what happened to this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I would have, if we're like literally playing around the table, I would have just been like, all right, cool, like, that character's an NPC now, like, all right, because they're on their way out anyway. I'm gonna take your character sheet, like, legitimately, just like physically take their character sheet and be like, put it behind my DM screen, and it's like, well, now I get to do whatever, and everyone can do whatever. It doesn't matter because they can wash their hands of it. I just don't want cross table conflict, even if it's like not immediate for it to like show up later, because where people are people, and the relationships are hard to deal with.
yeah. I don't know if it becomes a thing, then I'll see. But I think for now everyone's cool.
No, no, totally. Like I think you've it worked out.
For sure. Because the player's new character is much more interesting in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, nice. Well, shit. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was that all of it?
No, not remotely. Players? Because. So again, I had to just flim-flam away the usual like travel descriptions that I would use, because and also I want to make more of an urban travel thing, but that's a whole other discussion. But they did travel to like a larger capital city, and like how when we're playing in Roll20, like I like to switch up the backgrounds just to match the environment that the characters are in. Right. Unfortunately for me, like I found an area that like looks like what I want this city to look like, but it's very like bright and a lot more deserty than I would have liked, and it's supposed to be winter at this point in the campaign.
Oh, okay.
So that's a bit annoying, but otherwise, they've headed to this new city. They headed to the Adventurers Guild, which is what I was going to use as the excuse to get these new characters in. And they were able to meet a couple of them. One of them, the fighter with a unique past, I will say. One of them, a witch with a very interesting source of her powers. I will also say, in the interest of not spoiling too much about them, like everyone's new character, they've definitely given me like a lot to work with.
Nice.
So like I'm really interested in like really like delving deep into those characters. Like there's a bit more substance to them than some of the original ones.
Right.
So I'm just really excited to work with that. Like nothing against the original ones. Like I still love those characters. I'm really excited like to deal with these backstories because they've given me things that like how when I'm working on my world map, like I'll create things as I need them. Like if I need an area that has a certain thing, I'll make that. If I need an area to work with a character's backstory, I'll create that. And I'd had to create some new areas because of these backstories. There are some places on the world map that exist because the player needed it, like functionally for their character. That hopefully we get to go to because they've got stuff going on there now. But they were able to like meet a couple of these new characters. And then there was another one. So this one was, I think. This one was an interesting one. I mean, I assume you know Cyberpunk 2077.
I know of it.
Do you know the character Johnny Silverhand?
Oh, isn't that Nick? What's his name?
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves' character. Is he just playing Keanu Reeves' character?
He is playing Randy Copperfoot.
Okay.
Heavily influenced by Johnny Silverhand and sort of like his being summoned from, well, for in the game it was like a technological object. Your player character gets like connected to this chip that has Johnny's like information or soul in it or whatever. Right. This one was more of a magical thing. So I had this moment because he like specifically wanted this and I was like, this is hilarious, so I'm gonna figure out a way to make it work. And it was pretty much like playing a music track from the game and then just describing him being like resummoned into a physical form and then being like assigned this quest. And there was a bit more going on with it. It's a bit more involved. I don't want to say too much in the interest of not spoiling it. But it's like there is a reason why they went to this guy and shoved him on this important thing. Even though he's a bit chaotic, but I don't know. It was like a really fun moment for me that I like previously was wondering if I could make it work, but everyone was into it, so I was like, okay, it worked. I don't have to worry about that.
I know, you just wipe the sweat off your brow, like, wow, I can't believe they bought it. Like,
basically. There was something in it that, like, I don't know if we have time to like delve into that too much, but there was a thing that, like, I had them roll perception checks to try to overhear a conversation, but the conversation was taking place in Halfling, and unfortunately no one who rolled high enough perception, like, knew Halfling, so I had to describe the tones and the motions of it so they would get like a sense of like some deeper story going on with Randy. But like I'll find like other ways to like sort of hint at that sort of thing, because I don't want to leave it out in the air and be open, because like I want to answer these mysteries. But I don't know, we could definitely talk about like trying to reveal things to players but not having a way to do it, or like having it hidden behind a dice roll and other ways to do that. But that's a whole other discussion. I don't know if you want to lean into that, because we are out over an hour and I had a bit more to cover first.
All right, well, you know what? Let's touch on it on the next podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, then again, I had to skip a bit of the travel and just reduce it to description as they went to the actual academy. And then there they met. There were a couple things they had to do there. Obviously, they had to research these orbs of dragonkind, but they also had to drop off a letter to do with a sort of like one of the very early quests they were on was dealing with an infection going around a small town. And they had gone there, they had collected all the items to create the cure, they made the cure, but they got a sample analysis of the thing. And then this was back when I was using like pre-made adventures, so I mostly used like the function of it, like the combat, like the getting the cure and everything. But then I added like I changed up exactly what the infection was and the source of it and everything, and they had to do some investigating on that. So this is like wrapping back into that storyline that 2018 Calvin started. And I had a certain NPC that like I had them like they would have to meet to get more information. And I don't know, 2021 Calvin isn't as into that idea as 2018 Calvin was. So like I kind of wanted them to be a bit like weirder and creepier, and maybe I'll lean into that a bit, but I kind of had them being more like mysterious in a way. I did describe that this person of elven background, like their family tied back to like that undead lich wizard that had ruled the land many centuries ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like there's stuff there. It's just I don't know. I wasn't as into the character concept that I came up with several years ago when they finally got to this person. So hopefully I can come up with something of substance.
You're just like, wow, 2018 Calvin, you really didn't do much work here. Kind of unimpressed.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It was cooler back then, and then when I got to it, it was like, I don't know how I feel about that anymore.
I'll just change it. I mean, I guess if they're listening to this now, like...
I mean, they'll never know the original. They'll only know who exists now, so...
Right.
She's not as interesting. So yeah, they dropped off that note, and then I introduced because again, the wizard was going to stick around here for a bit, so I had someone there who had been like a student while he was, but was now coming back to start like working at the school as the librarian, which is like an official title because they have like this massive, larger on the inside magical library.
Yeah, he's like the librarian.
Yeah.
Like...
So yeah, like I had this new character, like this very playful, like female half elf who is sort of like a counter personality to the very straight-laced wizard.
Right.
I don't know. I kind of like, because when they were starting to like bounce off of each other, I was like, man, I'm gonna miss this wizard, because this could have been a really fun NPC to have around. I wish I had thought of them earlier.
It's okay. Well, I mean, now that character just exists here, right? So you know, you could just have both of them bounce off each other whenever the party comes back. Like you never if PCs leave the party, like you just turn them into NPCs. And honestly, I think that like when you know the players meet that NPC again, they're like, oh, they're still alive, or what have they been up to? And right, you know, I mean, they gasp.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely why I didn't want to kill that character off, because like I know the player wanted to switch for the longest time, and if they died, they would have made that switch. But like I wasn't gonna purposely try to kill their character just so they could switch. If it happened, it happened, but I wasn't gonna let it happen on purpose.
Yeah, man, that's what necromancers are for. Anytime there's like a dead PC out there, I mean, you know, if I was if I was running your campaign, I would have been like, that barbarian is definitely being sold to a necromancer, and then may or may not just show up at the party, and they're gonna be like, hey, you recognize one of the bodies in the whatever, the horde, and you're like, oh my god, it's our friend. Like,
oh, I got ideas. Don't you worry about that.
Holy. Sorry guys. Sorry, Calvin's players. It's trauma inbound, like.
Yeah, so yeah, they stopped and did some research, and then this was the point where I had to do some info dumping. So basically what I did was I wrote down like topics they could research. It was like the orbs, the crown, dragons in general. And then I put like different, like, I was sort of running it almost as a skill challenge, but not exactly, because I didn't know like what skill they would use to research, whether they would just do a straight intelligence roll, or if they would apply like arcana or nature for certain things, or religion or whatever. So I just set certain DCs, and I was like, okay, if you beat like 15, you'll learn this information. If you beat 20, you'll learn this. If you beat 25, or some things were behind 30, you'll learn this information. Mm-hmm. And like they did some assisting checks to get up to like the higher DCs and stuff. But yeah, this was the point where I was talking a lot. And you could probably hear my voice is still a bit still not fully recovered, because this was the point where I had to be like, okay, black dragons would gonna be in this area, green or red and white and blue would be in like these areas. The crown was last seen by this person in this area or whatever. Okay. The orbs are maybe this sort of thing. Like this was the info dump, and I was like really glad that they're taking notes, because I mean, like, I have the information here, and I guess I could write it down for them, but I'm just really glad they were taking notes as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing too, right? Like I know for our pirate campaign, we left off. You guys just left the burning city and just trying to, like, you guys, like, basically it's like, where do we go from there, right? And there's like a whole world out there where you guys could just go do right stuff. Yeah. And it's like, how do I translate that to you guys without it being like, this is what I've prepared? Like, you know, like,
yeah, basically.
Right. So, you know, where do I dump you guys off? Do I just like say like the beginning of the next session is just like, you guys are picking up on a plot thread because this NPC had like an idea, so you guys are just going to go do that? Or is it like, you know, it's just going to be our session is going to be us hashing out what does everybody know and where do you think we should go from here? Right. Like, I have some ideas. Like, I honestly think that I might just message everyone and being like, what do you guys want to do? Like, and then I'll just reorient the plot to wherever you guys want to try it. Whatever you guys think is fun, right?
Right.
But I don't know, man. Having big like info dump sessions, I mean, I feel like you could just start a Wikipedia page and just like,
yeah, that's kind of what my OneNote notes are ending up as. I wish I had started taking notes in what's it called, World Anvil or something like that, because that's more like literally setting up as a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So you could just link it off to your players and be like, "This is what it is." Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just read the wiki. Right.
But yeah, so I gave them this big dump. So now they have like different points on the map where they can investigate, basically. Yeah. And then it got to the point in the campaign with what I wanted to get to, which was now they'll choose what direction to go in, and now I can start leaning more into my travel stuff. My lovely travel stuff.
Now you can just sit back and hastily make a dungeon while your players take a couple sessions to crawl across the map.
Exactly. Like, I think it will be very lengthy depending on how heavily I do like all the travel, like random events and things. But now, like, because it's something that worked very well in both of the campaigns that I've been running, now I'm more able to do that. And now I have like these other elements out there. Just like I have the hags they met last session, I have the wyvern they met previously. There is a rival adventuring party that's been set on the same quest, so that's gonna be really fun. I didn't intend for them to be a rival adventuring party, if I'm being honest, but they ended up being that way. Like, I just had them a few sessions ago, like they were meeting this other adventuring party, and I was just describing them. And then there was this one person who was just like, they were supposed to be fun, but they ended up kind of sounding like a jerk, I guess.
So, just a little bit too competitive. You give them all. They're not evil, right? None of them have goatees. It's just
no, they're not
like
evil.
It's just the same party, but just everyone has goatees. You're just like.
That was,
and they're all just like gender swapped, but with just like minimal changes to their names.
It's like almost the exact same name, yeah.
It's just like a palette swap with the colors. So it's so awesome. It's like, you know, one dude wears a red shirt and it has a sword. The other one has a blue shirt and has an axe and a goatee, and you're just like. My name's Dave and the other one's Dan or something. You're just like
that was partially an influence, I'll admit. But yeah, no, awesome. It's so yeah, I got a lot of things open up, and yeah, no, I'm just really happy with where the campaign is right now. Hopefully next time I'll be able to not have to flim flam travel stuff, because I won't have to introduce like a whole bunch of people at once. But other than that, I had a very touching moment at the end. Oh, sorry, what?
I was gonna say, I think we run very different games. Just like the pacing of everything, and man, like I can't tell you the amount of sessions you've run for those people, like in comparison to the pirate campaign, like world shattering stuff has already happened, but these guys are just still trying to get sponsored by Monster Energy Drink. like it's just like the pace is so different, and I love it. Like,
they're only level 5.
So are you guys. You guys witnessed like the nuking of a city already. Like,
look, if I put them in that situation, I'm probably gonna end up getting them killed.
You're probably gonna kill all of them, because Cal's gonna be like, "Well, that's what the dice say."
What have I done?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got that campaign in a really good place. Oh, and I did borrow, like I mentioned, I borrowed Tim's quest list idea. But because I've been running this game on and off for like 3 years, there were a whole lot of quests. So I had to put them in a way that was a bit more organized, instead of like listing them. Because that works with a Phandelver game, because it's like just a few different things that we can very easily just like look at the list and check on. But for this, I had like, I didn't even count the number of things. So I had like too much stuff to do that. So what I ended up doing is I was gonna sort them between like major and minor. Like major being like the whole Crown of Dragons thing, and something minor being like they found a bag of holding in the sewer that had a name written on it. And whose could it be?
What? That's a quest.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's basically like again, the way I've opened up the campaign to be like more open world. It's like every small thing that they've come across. Again, hilarious. Very video gamey.
Calvin, it's gonna be a decade before you ever assemble like all of the Dragon Balls.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just like you're just setting yourself up to have a never-ending campaign.
I mean, honestly, that would be awesome though. But yeah, now I've got major, which is pretty much only the main quest. I've got moderate, which is like some other stuff they come across that's been pretty important, like the wyvern and the hags. And then I have the minor stuff that's like, one of them, which was pretty funny because I forgot about this person, is when they were like long ago, when they were in that small town, they had to briefly deal with a vampire who had their like coffin resting place hidden among like a lumber camp. And they got one of the guards of the lumber camp to help them find it. And that guard mentioned that they wanted to be an adventurer. And they asked like to get a recommendation into the Adventurers Guild. And then everyone forgot.
Oh my god, Calvin. It's so hilarious. I think legitimately, it is your like game is side quests, and like I swear to God, they'll never find a dragon orb at this point. Like they're not gonna do it. Like, and I'm pretty sure you don't want them to do it either. Like you're just like,
I mean, please
when I was be on the road forever.
When I was going through, you're not wrong. You're not far off. Like when I was going through it, I was listing everything. I was like, there's a lot of really fun stuff here. I kind of want to do everything.
You just have a never-ending quest, which is like, you know. No, I don't know, man. It's good. I just feel like how on the ground your campaign is, like boots on the ground. We're walking every step through this thing, and everyone's just getting lost in the weeds.
Yeah, pretty much. It's, I don't know, it's like right in that, it's right where I want it right now. I get to really get into like the travel stuff that I've been having a lot of fun with. They gotta go places, they gotta do quests there. It's not as, because like I'm thinking about doing the same thing for the Fateseer campaign, but I'm realizing that most of your side quests get resolved at like the same time.
Yeah, because we're just like, oh, we gotta go do a thing, and then we kill it. Or it's like, oh, you wanted some money? Here. And then Ruth just gives the person what they want. Exactly. And you're like, oh,
okay.
I guess that's it then.
Yeah, the Fateseer campaign is a lot more like Mandalorian than this one is.
Show up, beat the bad guys, and move on. Yeah. Gotta get Baby Yoda to find the Luke Daddy. His Luke Daddy.
Yeah, you gotta get where you're going. So. But yeah, really happy with where the campaign is right now. Really excited to continue playing it. Really excited to see if they deal with. They found an expensive dog collar in the first session, and they never finished dealing with that. Like all these minor quests are things that are just like small stuff they stumble across, but more important things started happening, so that it never got dealt with.
I like that. It's just like the one druid kind of wakes up in a cold sweat and be like, the dog collar. But yeah, no, this was okay, cool. Well, this was kind of a long podcast. I hope you guys are learned something today. I think we touched on like a whole bunch of cool DM topics, and you can see how Calvin struggles with his want to have a never-ending adventure and actually have some sort of plot.
I don't need plot.
I mean, honestly, man, like between there's a vampire somewhere and a bunch of hag, like it's a hag coven in a port town, and
no, the vampire's dead. Don't even worry about it.
I'm sorry.
I should worry a little bit about it.
My condolences.
Yeah, I also have like on the quest list, I have like rumors for like things that they just heard once, and I have a resolved section because as I was making these notes, I was like, I don't want them to feel like it's just things that never end. So I do have a section of things that were resolved in a way.
All right. Well, I mean, you could just put that in a graph and make it their KPIs, right? And it's just like you're like, well, you guys, you only resolved like 2 minor quests and 1 rumor this session. We gotta pick it up. Like,
yeah, let's go.
Let's go. What? Kevin, you're nuts. This is ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
They have in total like 10 quests between like all level of quest. So yeah, they'll plenty to do.
I don't even have that many side quests in my game. Not even close. I had like one unresolved thing, really, which is like your mom in the campaign, right? It's like that was some shocking news. I guess there's more because the Black Toes need to get revenged upon, and like there's also all these minor stuff like
the horse rider guys. I kind of want to go meet them again.
Yeah, you have to go meet them again. I mean, it'd be cool if you go and ask them for help because, yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to get those guys on your side.
Probably.
Yeah, well, I think that, like, the next leg of the campaign would be, like, you guys are obviously in over your head. If you guys are really going to deal with this problem, you're going to have to find some people to help you.
Yeah, right? That's kind of what I was thinking for that campaign.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm playing off of. But it's like, I don't know, like, will JoJo, like, I don't know, eat pain? Like, that's like it. It's like,
if we can save the world before that happens.
Yeah, before pain becomes like a demon lord.
Yeah. that would be nice.
Arguably still will allow it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of this is just because of how I used to run this campaign, in that it was so much me just like pulling in different things because I wasn't sure about my own ideas. I was just pulling in things and changing them up, and I ended up having like all these loose threads just because I was trying to like jam so many things together. And now seeing this massive quest list of all the loose threads, I think I'm just gonna have to keep going with that because it's really just like fascinating to look at. That's why I think like the Fate Seer campaign is a lot more like it's a lot more concentrated, and I feel like if it started the Crown of Dragons campaign now, it would be closer to that. Like they would probably have skipped like a ton of stuff, and like they would have like started with like the list of locations.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably where I would start it to, just be like, and then you guys get to just choose, right? Instead of it just being like, well, now you have to go find a dog. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like, 2018 Calvin just put that in because it was part of the pre-made adventure. And then I was like, okay, but like, whose dog? Because like all it said was like, you find the dog collar, it's got this name on it. And then what I put in was like, whose dog is it? Why was it there? Why is it this expensive collar? Yada yada. And that's what a lot of this was just like a random thing that I put in. And now it's like trying to like list them all. It's just like it's a very long list.
Interesting. Well, Calvin, it sounds like you're having fun. Your players having fun. I'm having fun. I hope our listeners are having fun still.
Yeah. This was a longer episode. We've been doing a lot of really short ones recently, but I was just really excited to talk about these 2 campaigns. So, yeah, a lot of more chatting than I probably should have been doing. I'm sure, like when I'm editing this, whenever I'm editing, I can always hear when I'm tired or when my throat is like not all there, and I'm like, this is low quality, but it's still like a fun episode. But I can tell, like, I'm sure the listeners can tell as well, but hopefully it's not an issue.
Yeah, well, if it is an issue, let us know in the comments down below, and give us a like.
Yeah, if I sound tired, give the video a like, because I'm here for you.
Yeah, if you agree with me that Cal is a crazy person having so many plot threads everywhere, please let him know, because like honestly, it's giving me like nightmares thinking about it. Like I'm just like, oh my god, how am I supposed to be responsible for all this? But yeah, no, I think it's cool. The recap, your campaign. I'm excited for you, Calvin. I'm excited to keep playing in the Lost Mines of Delver, like and more of Tim's craziness. I think he's an awesome DM. I'm excited to hear from you guys. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't do this outro stuff. Calvin, take it away.
Okay, outro stuff. So again, if you want to hear more episodes from us, just hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you get notified every time we upload an episode or every time we go live. Be sure to hit us up on social media, on Twitter and Facebook at Win With Dice, and our website, winwithdice.ca. Also, again, I want to shout out to our friends over at the Untold Stories Project, where you'll also hear me. If you want to hear my voice again, you'll also find me there every Wednesday playing the Fallout RPG. It's been really fun hanging out with them. I'm really enjoying it, so hopefully you go check it out. Shout out to them over on Twitch. And that is all our stuff. Again, our socials we're mostly on Twitter. We do have the Facebook page, but we're mostly on Twitter. Or again, I'll also post it every time we upload a new episode. But best way to keep track of the episodes is, of course, just subscribing to the channel. We have them all in playlists, and every time we cross another 10 episodes, they get put into like a playlist chunk. In case you don't want to go through a playlist of 32 or 33 episodes, you can just go 10 at a time. It's
crazy. There's so much good stuff in there. You guys check it out.
Oh yeah, a lot of phenomenal stuff in there. I like to think we make the kind of podcast that I would listen to. So if we're doing that, then we're doing well.
And we definitely make the podcast you want to listen to. That's what we do. That's what we do here, Calvin. Calvin, give the people what they want.
Yeah, there is one other thing that we do. There was one important thing, one important catchphrase, almost as important as more rule, less cool. And that catchphrase is, of course, to win with dice. And that's the episode this week. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, see you guys.